Hi, I suppose after watching 4 videos, what I want to say is that these are perspectives from 4 very involved people in the area of nanotechnology. They've vested interests in seeing nanotechnology develop and be institutionalised in legislation, be given a lot of funding for it, etc. So to that effect, I don't know how much of this is a objective slice of the pie in terms of what nanotechnology is and the risks that it poses. One thing that strikes me a lot in the 4 conversations or the 4 interviews is that each respondent or each interviewee talked about how they'd really like this technology, or what they're really trying to do is to advance this technology so that it will have use in the so-called developing world. It's something, I suppose, that we hear a lot of the time, that in order to make a certain scientific or technological project venerable, in order to make it seem prestigious, the discourse that is often used is this is going to be brought into the developing world and will make the lives of people in the developing world a lot better. The problem with this is that it fails to recognise that no science or technology has been institutionalised in the so-called developing world without, number 1, problems, and without, number 2, side effects. So I think it's a bit of a dishonest argument to use. I suppose the other thing that I was going to say is that one of the scientists who spoke talked about the scaling up of a biomimetic process, and I think also the term scaling up is used so glibly without really analysing what scaling up actually means. Nanotechnology is premised on a discourse of abundance, which is to say that the argument is if we can only replicate certain biomimetic processes and scale them up, we will have the answers to all sorts of ecological crises that exist in the world today. The problem, I suppose, with this idea of scaling up is that it still replicates the same relationship that we've always had with the world of nature, i.e. that we will now, in a climate, I suppose, of ecological crisis, have to find ways to prolong human life on Earth, and we will continue to find these ways through an abusive relationship with nature. And this idea of a simple scaling up as if that is I suppose an easy thing to do without any sort of side effects, without any sort of material consequences, is a farce. I suppose the last thing I'd say is this relationship between almost the idea that nanotechnology is immaterial, and it's this simple manipulation of molecules that will promise us all sorts of solutions to health and ecological crises. Is a bit strange because it decontextualises it from the material world in which it is being developed. And by that I mean any immaterial capability has a material consequence, whether it is the prolonging of age globally, i.e. that people get older because they're more healthier, has a material consequence in the world. The world is overpopulated as it is, or the immaterial capability to produce energy, to produce food crops, to produce medicines, etc. All of these have material consequences in the world that seem completely decontextualised and reified from the discourse of